tonight's tax lien and deed webinar. We have people trickling in, so I want to welcome you all to the training. Tonight we're going to be talking about available investor resources. So these are different resources that are available to you as investors, online resources that we can use to do research on property, to find out more about individual area. As we go throughout the webinar tonight, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask the questions down in the chat section. I'll try to answer as many of them as we can throughout the webinar, and if it's more of a personal question, then I can always email you back with those type of answers. So who is Secrets of Tax Lien Investing? If you're on the line tonight, I've probably set you up with a guest pass to our members area, the members lounge of the website. That's where we're going to have all of our tax sale list, our auction list. The weekly webinar is something that you can be part of, and all of our training videos and resources are going to be there. As far as me, my name is Steven Swenson. I attended my first tax sale in 1999. And some of you have heard this before, but we do have some new investors and new students on the line tonight, so I just quickly want to go over it. We established Tax Sale Solutions back in 2007, and it was set up to work directly with seminar companies. And so we worked with some of the largest seminar companies in the country for the last 10 years. We quit working with seminar companies about a year ago. During that time, I've taught over 20,000 students nationwide. Excuse me, our books have been featured on TV. They've been featured in many seminars. And so this is something we've been doing for quite a long time, and it's something we really enjoy doing. There's nothing that makes me happier than having one of our students go out there and acquire property through a tax sale, earn a better interest rate return than they ever could have in tax lien certificates. And so that's really something that brings us joy, and it's something we love doing. These are a couple of real estate investments that we've been working on, that we've done over the last couple of months. I just wanted to show you some of the type of properties that are out there, and we're actually going to go through. We're going to have plenty of time, hopefully, at the end of the webinar this evening to go through and look at some upcoming auctions. So we're going to look at upcoming sales. We're going to look at upcoming properties that are going to auction, and then we're going to use some of the resources that we're talking about tonight in researching these properties. So this first property was a property that we purchased in Florida, and this was a nice little single-family home. Now this property is 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, has a value of about $52,000. Now at the tax sale, we ended up winning this property for about $10,000. So the opening bid was about $5,000, and we ended up bidding up the property to about $10,000. Now with this particular property, we're going to rent it out, and so this property will rent out for about $900 a month. Now, when you look at that $900 a month versus 12 months, you can see that that's in the first year, this property is going to pay itself off. And that's one of the unique things about investing in tax sale properties, is that if you decided to rent these properties, many of these properties could pay for themselves within the first couple of years. If you were to go purchase a property through a normal type real estate transaction, and get a mortgage on that property, you could be paying that property off for 30 years, and much of the income that comes in from that property is not going to be going to you. It's going to be going to pay off the mortgage. And that's one of the things that makes tax deed and tax lien investing so lucrative, is the opportunity to acquire property for really lower than you could any other way. I've been involved in real estate, as I mentioned, since 1999. That's when I attended my first tax sale. I was a brand new real estate agent. And so my broker asked me to come out and attend the sale. I went to the sale, and I saw properties being purchased for 20, 30% of their market value. And in that time, in the real estate market that I lived in, people were listing homes for sale, and they would get 3 or 4 offers higher than their asking price. And so, the real estate market was incredibly hot at that time. And to see properties purchased for lower than their market value, in many cases quite a bit lower, was something that completely got me excited about it. This property down below is a property that we're just going to do a turn and flip on it. It's a single-family home, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, and this property has a value of about $65,000. Now this property ended up selling for about $20,000. I think we started out with maybe an $8,000 or $9,000 opening bid, and ended up winning it for $20,000. We're going to be selling this property for about $60,000, and so it's going to make about a $30,000 to $35,000 profit. These are, of course, some examples of different types of tax sale investing and properties out there that you can get started with. As far as the tax lien investing resources, one of the resources that is available to you is obviously the webinar. Each week we're going to look at, we're going to talk about different strategies with tax sale investing, and we're also going to look at upcoming auctions that are taking place. So you guys are going to have knowledge about different deals that are going on, about upcoming auctions, about different over-the-counter lists. If there's any new information available, we're going to be talking about it during the webinar. Also, as far as your guest pass to the Secrets of Tax Lien Investing website, that's going to include all of our auction list. So any of our auction list, our over-the-counter list. We also have all of our training in there. Our state profiles, where we have profiles of all of the different states, and also our investor profile. So all that information is going to be available to you, and you can use it as a resource to get started in tax lien investing. Now let's start talking about some of the online resources that you're going to use as a tax sale investor. Now, the first resource that we're going to use, probably more than any other resource that's available to us, is county websites and property records. We're going to use these county websites to research all of the information that's going to be important about the tax sale. That's where we're going to get information about the tax sale. That's where we're going to be doing, we're going to have the opportunity to research county records and find out information about particular properties, what the assessed value is, how many square feet the property is, if it's a lot, how big is the lot. Many times county records, and we'll go through and review some of them, are going to have even additional information like pictures. We'll be able to see when the property sold last and how much it sold for. So researching county records and the ability to navigate county websites is really going to be one of the primary things you do as a tax sale investor. That's where we're going to get our information. And so becoming proficient and becoming good at researching county records is really going to be one of the tools that you're going to need to develop to become a tax lien or tax deed investor. Now we can see with this particular example, you know, we're going to go to the department head within this county website, and we're going to look for information about the tax sale. Now, depending on the state that you're researching, you may look for information in different areas. For example, some counties may call the person that handles the tax sale the tax collector, while other counties may call it a treasurer. And that's part of the benefit of the state profiles on the website, is you can go through and review those state profiles, and you can see what the county offices or what the officials are called within that area. And so when you go to the county website, you know, okay, well, within this county, I'm going to be looking for the assessor, and sometimes it may be called the property appraiser in another county. But in this county, I'm going to look for the assessor to find information about property records. If I'm looking for the tax sale information within this county in Arizona, I'm going to look for the treasurer. And so we can see underneath the departments, there's the treasurer, there's the assessor. I could click on either one of those links, the treasurer to find information about the tax sale, and then the assessor to review the properties in the county records. Also, many county websites are going to have search tools that are available. These could be very helpful for in finding things as well. You can type in tax lien or tax sale in there and see what information is going to pull up. Also, the county officials are really going to be one of our great tools. I think this is probably one of the underutilized resources that are available to us, because the county officials, this is their job. Their job is to appraise property within the county. Their job is to handle the tax sale. And so if we are talking with the person which job is to collect the property taxes and handle the tax sale, they're going to probably have some good information that's going to be valuable to us as investors. They can really be one of our greatest resources as an investor. If you invest in a particular area and you want to go back and reinvest within that area, having a relationship with somebody down at the county courthouse or somebody over the phone or through email that's a county official is only going to benefit you. They may be able to give you tips about the area. They may be able to let you know about a particular property. And the great thing about county officials is every county has one. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to find any pills out there. You're not going to find any county officials that may be a little bit tough to deal with, or maybe you have to catch them at a different time, because they're people just like all of us, but that's really the part of their job, and we can use them as a resource to help us in our investing. They know the area, they know the tax sale system, they know the property's value. This is what they do, and so it's good for us to use their resources to help us make good decisions. Also, another website that I use on a daily basis is Google Earth or Google Maps. This gives us the ability to research individual properties and also see, in many cases, a street view of the property. And so if I'm researching a property, I can actually go through and many times see what the property looks like, and also go down the neighborhood, get an idea of what the neighborhood looks like. It's going to be an easy resource to use. You can either download the Google Earth app, or you can just use Google Maps. Type in the address, and we're going to do that tonight. As we go through and research some of these upcoming properties at the auction, we're going to use Google Earth as a resource. Also, down near the bottom of the Google Earth or the Google map that you're looking at, there's going to be a date of when that picture was taken. And so that's something to look at. If I'm looking at a picture that's only 4 months old, that's going to tell me a lot about the property versus a photo that may be 4 years old. And so, even though that one that may be 3 or 4 years old still has value because I can see the property and I can get an idea of the neighborhood that it's in, the newer the photo, the more information that's going to give us as far as what the condition of the property is right now. Now, there's a chance that the property could be in better shape. There's a chance that it could be in worse shape, depending on how old the photo was taken. But it's still a great resource for us to get a good idea of the neighborhood and the condition of the property. We can also use it to do the overhead maps and see other homes within the area, see where the property is located with the city. Also, another tool that we're going to use tonight is property value websites. Property value website like Zillow.com. Now, Zillow.com isn't always going to be 100% accurate with what that property is valued, but it is a good indication of what the properties are valued within that area. In addition to that, they're going to have a lot of additional information. They're going to have information about rental prices within the area. They're also going to have, if you scroll down as you're looking at a particular property, you can scroll down and look at similar homes for sale or similar homes that have sold. I use those similar homes that have sold all the time in doing a comparative market analysis. And the comparative market analysis is just where I find similar properties, similar to the property that I'm looking at, and I find out what each one of those properties sold for, how much they sold for per square foot, and that gives me a good indication of what the property would sell for that I'm interested in. And so Zillow.com is going to give you at least an estimate of what the property's value is. And you can also use the resources available on any of these websites to find properties that have sold, that are currently for sale. That way you can do a comparative market analysis on your own. The home study program that is available is going to go through and talk about how to do a comparative market analysis. And I understand we're going through this quickly, guys, and part of the reason is because I want to spend some time going through and looking at upcoming auctions. As we did that last week with some of the students on there, they really enjoyed that. And so I want to spend some time today, because we had some students that weren't able to make it, and look at some more upcoming auctions. Go through and kind of go through this process and use some of these tools in figuring out the value of a property, determining if it's a property they would like to bid on or not, or if it's one that has interest, and also looking at properties that would probably want to avoid. Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time researching those properties, but we'll be able to review them so to help you get a better idea of what type of properties you'd like to avoid. Now, another great tool that you're going to use, and this is primarily with tax deed investing. I don't necessarily recommend having an on-site evaluation with tax lien investing, where you actually have to go look at the property in person or have somebody look at the property, the current condition of the property. Because with tax lien investing, you're just purchasing a lien on that property, and there's probably a 95% chance that you're going to make an interest rate return. You're not going to acquire the property. But if you're purchasing tax deeds outright, doing an on-site evaluation is really going to be important. Now, you don't necessarily have to do it yourself, but it is good to have somebody drive by and take a look at the property, especially structured property. Now, if you're purchasing land, doing an on-site evaluation may not be needed. Land is pretty basic as far as what the value is. You're not going to be worrying about termites or a busted roof with a piece of land. And that's the reason, I have some investors and some students that do nothing but land because they don't want some of the headaches. So doing an on-site evaluation is really going to be a great way to review the condition of the property in the area. You're going to be able to look at the outside of the property. Now, if there's somebody living in the property, I recommend not going in and peeking in the windows. First of all, it's against the law. Second of all, you may get a shotgun in your face. But if the property doesn't have anyone in there, then you can take the risk. I've taken the risk myself and gone through and looked at the property as far as the outside a little bit, peeked in the windows to see if I could see what the condition is. But it's definitely something I'd probably recommend avoiding if the property has people currently living in it. But even from reviewing from the street, you can get a pretty good idea of the outside condition. And many times the outside condition is going to be at least an indication of what the inside may look like. So as far as a recommendation, we definitely recommend having an evaluation done on larger tax deed investments. So if you're purchasing a tax deed in Florida that may cost $20,000 or $30,000, it's going to be worth it to have somebody go by and take pictures of the current condition of the property so that you have a better idea. That, or if you can actually look at the property yourself. For example, in these Florida tax deeds that we're investing in, I have a cousin within the area that's able to go out there and take pictures of the property. So her and her husband goes out and takes pictures and lets me know about the neighborhood, and that helps give me the information on the property to know if it's something we want to bid on or not. There's also ways that you can find other people to take pictures of the property for you as well. So if you don't have somebody within that area, that's not a problem. We're going to talk about it here in a minute when we talk about classified ads, where you can find people that can go out and take a picture of the property. So this can be done by you, it can be done by somebody else, it can be done by a realtor, it can be done by another investor, and it can also be done by somebody that you hire to go out and take a picture. Everyone has a cell phone these days, and almost all cell phones have a camera. And so, you don't necessarily have to spend a huge amount of money to have somebody go out there and take a picture of the property. And we'll talk about that in more detail here in a couple of minutes. Also, real estate agents. A real estate agent can be a great tool for us as investors. Agents know more about the market trends and how to sell the property in that area better than most. They can really assist us with a lot of different information. They can let us know the average days on the market, how long it's taken for a property to sell, the estimated sales prices and averages. They're also going to know the local laws and procedures. Every state's going to be a little bit different. So having somebody that understands that area is going to be a benefit to us. They can also help us, and this is really one of the underlying benefits of a real estate agent, is they can help assist us with finding other people to use in our power team or to include in our power team, people like a title company, a mortgage company, a lawyer, a handyman. These different people that we may include in our power team, and we're actually going to be talking about power teams here in one of the next webinars and how to put together a power team. They're going to have people within that area that can help us. And so if you need a handyman to go out and look at a property, usually a real estate agent is going to know one. They're going to many times have a title company that they work with, and sometimes they can give us discounted title searches. They can sell a property out of state for you. If you live in California and you're purchasing property in Florida, you're going to need somebody to sell the property for you. They can do pictures and on-site evaluations for you. They can assist you in determining the value, and they can also perform a BPO for you. And a BPO is a broker's price opinion. And so that's similar to an appraisal. It's just getting an idea of what the property would actually sell for. It's essentially doing a comparative market analysis, and that's something that we can do ourselves as well as investors. So how do you use a realtor in your business? Well, as we mentioned, they can help you in determining the property value. They're going to know what particular properties are selling for within an area better than most people. When I first started out in this doing real estate as a real estate agent, and I knew exactly what property values were. I knew what the estimated property value was of an average single-family home. I knew what the starter homes were valued at. That's something that most real estate agents are going to know. And so working with a good real estate agent is going to be beneficial. They can also be used to take pictures and visit a property. They're going to be a valuable part of your power or wealth team. You can also pay an agent a flat fee for a broker's price opinion, or you can also promise to list the property with an agent after the sale. I've had a lot of students that have worked out really pretty incredible deals with the real estate agent. They approach the real estate agent and say, I'm interested in investing within this area. I plan on purchasing many properties over the years, and I'd like to list the property with you. I've had investors that have even given the real estate agent a higher commission. So maybe they give them a couple of extra points on their commission, but that real estate agent goes above and beyond. They're able to get title search done for them. They're able to attend auctions for them. And so in finding the right real estate agent, we'll talk about that more in another webinar as far as building your power team. But using a real estate agent, especially if you're acquiring property. If you're purchasing tax liens, you're probably not going to need a realtor unless you acquire the property, and then it's something you can deal with. You can find at that time. But if you're purchasing tax deeds or if you're purchasing property outright immediately, then that's somebody you're going to need as part of your power team within that area. Also, other investors and partners. Guys, this can be a great way to help you research the property. They can take pictures of the property. They can conduct on-site evaluations. They can also help provide money. I work with a lot of students. In fact, I've done this myself, where I've teamed up with an investor that has more capital than I do to go out there and purchase tax deeds. And from there you're able to split the profit or to have some type of share within the profit. And so there's a lot of different investors out there. There may be an investor out there that has the money but doesn't have the knowledge. Or you may, on the other hand, be an investor that has the money but doesn't have a lot of the knowledge or time. And so teaming up with another investor that you can go out and together start purchasing property, many times that can be a win-win scenario. A great way to search for investors or partners or local investor clubs, forums, blogs. There's so much information. There's so much available as far as social media that you can team up with other investors. Maybe you have the knowledge and the time. They have the money. Maybe you have the money and they have the knowledge and time. Teaming up with other investors is a great way to go out there and do real estate deals that maybe you aren't able to do on your own. Okay, let me go through the questions real quick, see if there's any pressing. Okay, good. So in today's economy, there's many people that are looking for a way to make extra money. This is great for college students. This is great for people that have a little extra time on their hand. And really this is about doing on-site evaluations or taking pictures of property. You can contact somebody in the classified ads looking for work or just looking for some extra time. You can put an ad within the paper about hiring somebody to go out and take pictures of a property for you. As I mentioned, if you live in California but you'd like to invest into Florida tax deeds and you need somebody to go out within that area to take pictures of the property, almost everyone has a cell phone. And those cell phones have cameras. Maybe they have their own camera. And then most of us have internet where you can email those pictures to them. So it's easy to work out some type of payment plan or not payment plan, but some type of payment for paying somebody to go take pictures, depending on the amount of time it takes. If you have somebody going out and taking five different property photos or five photos of five properties that you need to have photos taken of, you can determine, well, this is probably going to take this many hours, and I'm going to charge them this price, or I'll be willing to pay the person this price. And with PayPal and some of the online resources, you can go ahead and just pay them online. And so this is something to think about if you are looking to invest in another area but don't have somebody within that area to go out and review property for you. You pay somebody $50 or $100 and they spend an afternoon and go take photos of a property. That could really be a win-win scenario. Win-win for them, they're able to make a little extra cash. A win for you because now you've got updated photos of the property, which is going to help you in determining how much you'd like to bid, or even if you'd like to bid on the property. Okay, also, we're going to talk a little bit about title companies. Title companies provide title insurance when you're selling a property. So they're going to be used if you sell a property through a real estate agent for the full market value. So if you're doing wholesaling a property, there's a chance you may not need a title company because you just might be quit claiming it to another investor. But if you're going to go through quiet title and sell the property for top dollar, then you're probably going to need to work with some type of title company. Title companies can also provide title searches on properties. And so that title search is going to tell us everything we need to know about the individual property. Title searches are a great way to avoid any type of potential risk. They can be used to check property records and owners of property. They're going to provide you with the full property history. Now, usually with title searches, we don't recommend them, unless you are purchasing, some type of high-value tax deed. If you're spending huge amounts of money to try to purchase a tax deed, then it's worth it to go through and have a title search done. And there's ways to get them done for cheaper as well. A lot of the information, or pretty much most of the information, can be found out by us if we're willing to do the research through the county records and going through and reviewing all that information. But this is also a way that many investors will use to do a title search. Now, we don't ever recommend doing a title search until as close to the auction date as you possibly can. Because, we don't want you spending money on a title search to review a title on an expensive property that you're looking at bidding at the tax deed auction, and then having the property taken off the list before you have a chance to even buy it. And so if you're going to have a title search done, it's kind of good to work that out beforehand, and then, within anywhere from a week up to the limit of time that the company can actually get it done for you. Sometime within that time frame, actually having a title search done on usually more of your high-value properties. For example, some of the smaller single-family homes that we did, I was able to do the research myself and determine if there was anything on the property, and I didn't have any problem not having a title search done. But if we're looking at other property that may have many different owners, or it may be a lot more expensive property, where we're not looking at a home that's worth $60,000, but now a property that's worth $500,000 or $600,000, then it may be worth it to go through that process so that you know exactly what you're purchasing when you purchase it. These are a couple of online title search companies. These are ones that our students have worked with in the past. TitleSearch.com provides different title searches from $39 up to $159. OLtitle.com is another online title search provider. You can also look for title search companies within the state that you're researching. You may also have a local title company that may be able to do title searches for you, but usually you're going to look for a title company within the area where the real estate is located. So it's very possible that a title company in California could do research on a Florida property, but usually you're going to look for a property within Florida, excuse me, a title company within Florida to research those type of properties. Electronic Appraiser is another online resource. This is able to help give you a property evaluation. Usually, though, this is really if you don't want to go through the process of doing a comparative market analysis. Really, I would trust my own opinion, and really after you've gone through the process, probably trust your own opinion as far as what a property is valued at. We're able to figure that out really pretty easy because we can go back and we can see what other properties have sold for. And when I'm doing a comparative market analysis, I'm not going to do anything. How can I say this? I'm not going to try to fluff up the price at all. I'm going to look at I'm going to go on the low end of that of what I think the property is worth. So if I do research on a property and I can find that the very cheapest properties in that area sold for $60,000, but there was lots of properties that sold for $70,000 or $80,000 that are similar to mine, I'm going to look at that $60,000 mark. I'm going to go down as low as I can so that I'm going to be safe. So if it sells for $70,000 or $80,000, great, I made an extra 10 or 20 grand. But if it sells for $60,000, the very lowest amount of a property that's similar to that, I at least have a good basis that the property is at least going to be worth that much. So what we're going to do, and we actually have a lot of time, I'm kind of excited about this, is we're going to go through and research some upcoming auctions. So we're going to go through and research different county websites. We're going to go research a couple of online auctions, and we're going to go through and review different county records. We're going to go review different properties, and then we're also going to use some of these other property tools like Google, like Zillow, to do additional due diligence on each one of these properties. Okay. Now before we get going, one thing I quickly want to go through is just some of the resources that are available to you on the website. If you're on this call, you have a username and password to the members section of the website. If you click on the members section, you can see some of the different tools that are available, and we're actually adding new tools to this as well. So you can see that we have the training center, some of the tools that are available, the auction calendar, the online auction, our over-the-counter list database, and also our state and investor profiles. So if we were to click on any one of these tabs, it's going to have all the information. So we can see all of these different investor profiles right here. Also down here below, you can click on the tabs here. And then we also have all the state profiles as well. So if we were to click on Kentucky, it's going to have the state profile of Kentucky. We can read about how Kentucky handles their auction, their foreclosure, their auction dates, their rate of return, everything we need to know. We can go through and review these individual profiles. We can also click on the training center. This is the tab where we can go ahead and register for the training. We can click on the blog. We can click on the video section where we'll have the video of the week right here, and then we'll also have different webinars here. So these webinars are hour-long or 2-hour-long webinars. Down here are short videos, and we're just going to keep adding different videos to this and so that we have a large database of training material that you can go through. Online auctions are links to all the online auctions, the over-the-counter database, the auction calendar that has all the upcoming auctions in the list as well. So there's going to be a lot of tools available to you as a member of the program. Okay, I just want to make sure. I have a student that says they can't see any of the slides. I just want to make sure that you guys can see what I'm looking at and that we don't have any problems as far as that's concerned. So if you guys can go down to the question section and let me know if you guys can see the website here. I just want to make sure before we go on that you guys can see mine. Okay, looks like everyone else can see it. I'm sorry for the student that can't. One thing you may want to just go ahead and log off and then log back on and see if that helps see the slides because everyone else can seem to see them fine. So let's go ahead and let's start looking at some upcoming auctions. Let's start looking at property. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and go into the online auction section, and we're going to look at some of these upcoming auctions. First thing we're going to look at is some upcoming auctions in California. California conducts all of their online auctions through bidforassets.com. Now there's one county, San Diego area, uses Grant Street Group, but all the other counties will use Bid for Assets to conduct their tax sale auction. So we can see in July that there's a reoffer sale, and then we can see all of the sales that are happening in August. We can see Los Angeles. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on Modoc County, California. So as we click on Modoc County, we're going to see information. We can see that there's 61 tax defaulted properties at the auction. We can see the auction starts July 11th. It's going to end July 14th. As we continue to scroll down, you can see that there's a lot of different information here that we can go through and review. How to review the parcel maps, county terms of sale. Also down here below, we can see that we have two different files that we can click on for the property list. We can get the property list in PDF. We can get the property list in Excel. Down below that, we have all of the online files. So if we were to click this online file, it's going to have a list of all of the different properties that are coming up for auction. Now, many times when I'm looking at a county like this, I'm going to go ahead and pull up that Excel list. And I'm going to show you why. As we went through a couple of weeks ago in one of the webinars, we talked about the quick glance method of reviewing a list and condensing that list down and finding out what information is in that list and taking the list and condensing it down to you have a more manageable number of properties to research. And so we're going to kind of quickly go through that process here and see what this tax sale has to offer. So we can see that there's a lot of information in the list. We can see that it has a large legal description. We can see the minimum bid amount. We can see the auction date, the property address, community zip code. Let's continue to scroll across. We can see the land value, the improvement value, the total assessed value, any type of special assessment, the zoning. So we continue to scroll on the zoning type. We can see, residential, light industrial manufacture, high density residential. We can see if there's any type of IRS lien on the property and any additional information as well. So, it really gives us quite a bit of information. Now, as I'm just researching the list, I'm going to go ahead and delete some things that don't really matter to me. Right now, the legal description doesn't matter to me because we're just trying to shorten this list down and takes up a lot of information. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. I'm not worried about the auction date as well. Now we've kind of narrowed that down where it gives us a little bit more information. So let's look at this first property here. Oh, also one thing I want to talk about is as we were looking at this auction, we can see that this is, or was, let me go back here. We can see that this is a reoffer auction. And what they do in a reoffer auction is they're going to go ahead and auction off the properties at usually a set bid amount. So we can see here that the minimum bid is set. This particular property is at 5,000, but all of these different ones are at 500, 1,000, 1,000, 500. And so that's going to tell, this is what they do in resales many times is they're just going to go ahead and offer each property at some type of flat rate, and whoever's the highest bidder may win the property. So before, this property may have had $2,000 or $3,000 worth of delinquent taxes. They're essentially just trying to sell it. Now, sometimes, they're going to have a lot of good properties on that list. Sometimes, the properties on the resale list is going to be limited. But I've seen people pick up properties, in fact, even structure properties, single-family homes, in California over the last couple of years for $1,000, $2,000 before. So there is a lot of good opportunities. We see this first property has a opening bid of $500. We can also see additional information on it. And also, as we're going down this list, if we weren't interested in, we can see that there's a lot of $500 properties, and we can see that it looks like there's some type of lots. If we were interested in these, then we could go ahead and, take any of these properties out, and we may be left with 5 or 6 properties to look at. So we can see the opening bid amount's $5,000. We can see the city it's located in. We also have an address here. We can see these properties down below don't have an address. With an address, that gives us the ability to search Google Earth and find out some more about the property. We can see it does have an improvement value and a land value as well. Now, over here, not all lists are going to have this, but this list has a little link that you can actually click on to pull up the information and bid for assets. So we went ahead and clicked on that so we can see some additional information. We can see there's a $5,000 opening bid amount. We can see it's on 0.46 acres. Here's the address here. We go ahead and click on here to pull up the parcel map. There's information in there on how to review and read the parcel maps. We also have this address right here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and pull up Google Maps, and we're just going to quickly search it. Only takes a couple of seconds, and it's going to give us a better idea of what this property is. So we can see that there's some type of property within here. Now let's go ahead and back and review this information. So we can see that it has, a land value of $22,000, improvement value of $9,000, but just under $10,000. It's a commercial building. We could also take this parcel number, this APN number, and go back to the county record and do a parcel search on it and pull up the property records. That'll give us additional information than we see here. But in looking at this, it's probably, one of these properties right here. We could do a little bit more due diligence if we have the time to find out exactly what it is and what the value would be. It's a little bit harder to find out what the value is on a commercial property than it is on a residential property. Let's see if there's any other properties. I'm scanning down this. These lots may have some type of value, but it's something, not really too interested in. We can see the values here are probably lower than the actual property will sell for. But we're not going to spend a lot of time researching these. I mean, is it possible to make money on these properties? Absolutely. If you were to purchase this $500 lot that has a value of $5,000, you could turn around and you might be able to sell that or make $3 or $4 grand off that property. But for what we're doing for today, we're not going to go into a lot of detail on how to be able to do that. But there is, even in a property like that, it's possible that you could make money on the property. Let's just go ahead and click on it quickly and see what the bid for asset information is. So we can see it's, a 1.65 acre lot, and this is probably some type of building lot within this these recreational estates. So probably some type of cabin lot or summer home lot, I would imagine. Let's quickly go down the list and see if we see anything else. We can see a property here with a $1,000 opening bid. And then we can see it has a value of about $63,000. So let's go ahead and click on that property quick. We're looking here and we're seeing this personal property value, which probably tells me there's some type of mobile home on this property. We can see that the mobile home on this parcel is classified as personal property and not included in the tax sale. Well, that's good information for us. That means that we're not going to spend a lot of time researching that property, because if the mobile home is not included, most times if a mobile home has its own lot, it's going to be assessed as an improvement value and not a personal property value. But occasionally, it will be assessed as a personal property, and we can see that it's assessed as a personal property right here. So, we're not going to spend a lot of time researching that one. In fact, there's really not a ton of great examples within this particular list because it is a resale. So let's go ahead and look at some other auctions that are coming up. We can also see that there's some other sales taking place. Now we can see this county only has, 7 tax defaulted properties, so it's going to be a smaller auction. I'm sure the Los Angeles auction that's coming up will actually be a pretty good auction. Last year there was some really, really nice single-family homes and different structured properties that went to sell. But once we go ahead and click on the online list, you can see the different online links that we can click on. So we can click on any of these. We can see this, $1,000 minimum bid. This property has an improvement value of $28,000, a land value of $11,000. So that, that's automatically going to tell us that there's some type of improvement. That improvement could be a single-family home, it could be a mobile home, it could be a commercial property. We're not quite sure yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and copy that address, and we're going to do a quick search. Sometimes I like to go ahead and click on the satellite view just to get an idea of the area the property is located in. So I can see some type of structure right here. Let's go ahead and click on the street view. So we can see this property right here. And we can also see a property right here. Now, it's most likely this property right here. But let's go ahead and take that address, and let's try looking on Zillow real quick and see if we can see some additional information about it. Just going to go ahead and type in the address, and we're going to click search. Okay, so in looking in the county record, we can see that this property has an assessed value of $39,000. On Zillow, it has an estimated value of $131,000. Now, the assessed value isn't always going to be the market value. The assessed value and the market value are different. The assessed value is going to be based on the property assessment, the property values within that area, and the county's estimated budget for the year. So the assessed value could be half of what the market value is. It could be 80% of what the market value is. And sometimes it may be even close to what the market value is. Now, in looking at this property, I would probably think that it's not quite worth this price, and that's where we would find out other properties that have sold. But we can see that many of the properties in this neighborhood are valued higher than this property. So we can see it's an 896 square foot home, 3-bedroom, 1 bath. If we scroll down here, we can click on comparable homes, and we can see what some of these homes have sold for. So there's been 2 that have sold for between 110 and 115. 6 that have sold between 125 and 140. And so we can go through and research these properties and see if it's similar to the property that we're looking at. But even if this property is only valued at half of that value, so we're looking at 131. Maybe it's valued at 70 grand. Even at 70 grand, based on this opening bid amount, would this be a good investment? Well, we've just done just the bare minimum as far as the research, but it looks like a property that we could do some more research on. that we might participate in the sale just based off of the value versus the opening bid amount. $1,000 property, we're saying has an estimated worth 130,000. It has the county value worth about 45. We'll say it's worth 70. Is that a good investment? Well, it looks to be a pretty good investment. So from there, we could do additional due diligence, start going through some of those more steps to see if it's a property we're going to bid on. We can see this property here only has a $50 minimum bid. We can see it's 4.1 acres. Now it only has a value of $1,500, and part of the reason is we can see underneath this additional information. This is mineral rights only. So you're not actually buying the property; you're buying the mineral rights for this particular property. So for most investors, that's probably not something you're looking to do, unless you're planning on going out there and doing a little gold digging. You'd probably avoid mineral rights in most scenarios. Let's go ahead and look at this next property. Okay, this next property has a very high minimum bid amount. We can see that it has a minimum bid amount of $646,000. Now, as we scroll down, we can see that this is a very, very large piece of land. In fact, it includes many different pieces of land. We can see that, this is just under 1,000 acres. So, we're looking at several miles worth of land within this particular tax sale. We can see that it has a land value of $1.8 million. So even though it does have a very, very high opening bid amount, we're looking at nearly $2 million worth of real estate that's just under 1,000 acres. And so even though this has a high minimum bid amount, and it's actually probably, as far as the bid to value ratio, it's probably about 20 to 30%. As far as the minimum bid, what this property value is. So even though this is a very high minimum bid amount, you're still looking at about a 30% bid to value ratio. So you could turn around and flip this property, sell this property. Looks like it's many different properties, probably several large lots together, and still make a huge amount of profit. There's over $1 million worth of profit that you could make on this particular tax deed. And I think some of these others are very similar. I looked through a couple of them the other day. Looks like a vacant lot right there with the $2,000 opening bid. Here's a $150 minimum bid on a property that's worth, has a assessed value of about $8,500. Now, I don't know anything about this property. Would have to do some more research, but those numbers can work out. This might be a property. I'm not afraid to buy a property that's only valued at 10 grand if I can get it for a great price, and if that property is sellable. If it's usable, if it's a lot, if it has some type of use, then it could be a great investment. We'd have to do some more research on it. Let's go ahead and go back quickly. Looks like we had somebody's asking us. Go through. I've got a lot of questions. San Mateo. I don't believe this San Mateo has the list out yet. Let's go ahead and click on it. Oh, it does. So here's San Mateo. We can see that this particular tax sale has 102 tax defaulted properties. So quite a few properties. I don't need to email San Mateo. And we can see all of the different online lists that are available. Now, going through these online lists can take some time. You can see it can take some time just as we have to go through each one of them. And this is what's called a batch. This is what's called a batch of tax deeds. And many times counties will sell them in batches in some of the online auctions. So in tax lien certificates that you purchase online, and in some of the tax deed sales, they're going to sell them in batches. And essentially that just means that these 10 tax deeds are starting at 8 o'clock a.m. The auction is going to start at 8, and then the next batch is going to start at 9, and the batch after that is going to start at 10. So it's nothing to get too confused about. It's just really a group of tax deeds that are going to sell at that time. And we can see that this also includes some different photos on the property. So we can see looks like some type of structure property here. Let's go ahead and click on it. So this particular property has a $27,000 minimum bid amount. Now, in looking at it, it really looks pretty nice. Let's go down and see if we can find some more information about it. So we have an address for the property right here. We can see it's located in San Francisco. We can also click here for a parcel image where we've got an image of the property. Looks like really a pretty nice little home. We can click on the parcel map as well. See where the property is located within the subdivision. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take this information. We're going to do a Google search, and then we're going to check the property value as well. So here's the property located right here. As we're looking at this photo right here, it's probably just down this little street, and it was taken right here. So really, overall looks like a pretty nice little property in a good area. And when we're looking at a opening bid amount of $27,000, I'm sure that this property is going to have a pretty good assessed value. Let's go ahead and check that out. Okay, wow, I wasn't expecting that. We're looking at assessed value here of $1.2 million. And so, I would imagine based off the value of this property, we have 37 days. The property owner has 37 days to pay that $27,000 before they lose the property. But would this be a good investment? Yes. Looking this over, this would be a great investment. You're looking at a property that's worth $1.2 million and has an opening bid for $27,000. Now, usually with a property that's valued that high, you're going to have a higher minimum bid. So, a property that's valued at $1 million may have a $100,000 bid. But is this an example of a great property? A very, very nice property. Looks like we have another property here we can take a look at. Here's another single-family home. Here's one with a $72,000 value. That's a little interesting. For some reason, they don't have the address listed here, which is unusual. So what we need to do to search this address is take that parcel number, go into the county records, and do some additional research on it. We may also be able to find the address by downloading the Excel list. Let's go ahead and pull up that Excel list, and we'll take a look at all of them real quickly. Come on. Okay. So here's the list of the tax sale that's taking place. We can see the property address is listed right here, the city, any additional information. And I guess one thing that they may be adding is this additional information as the auction date gets closer. Okay, let me answer a couple of these questions real quick just because we've got quite a few. This is a great question, real great question. Do you have a general rule of thumb you follow when you bid in auctions up to 60% of the assessed market value? That's a great question. When it comes to tax deed investing, we'll usually say stick between the 20 to 40% of the property's value range, unless it's really a great property. I mean, in some markets you may have to bid it up to 50 or 60% to acquire some of the best properties within that area. But usually those are areas where the property is so nice that you can turn around and sell it quickly or flip it quickly and make a pretty great profit. For example, maybe it's one of these homes that in California that's worth $1 million, but you end up bidding the property up to 500,000. Well, if you bid it up to 500,000, you're paying 50%, but there's still $500,000 left of profit available. Now, if we were to take that on the other side and say we're looking at a property that's worth, a single-family home that's worth $40,000, well, you might not want to bid that property all the way up to $20,000 because that only gives you $20,000 of room for profit, and there may be some expense that goes into that, which is going to eat that profit away. And so every investment's going to be a little bit different. My kind of rule is the higher value of the property, the higher you can essentially bid it up in value as far as the percentage rating. So as the property gets higher in value, maybe you can go from 20% to 30% to 40%. And if it's in a great market, you may have to bid 50 or 60% to get the very best properties. But there's also properties that are going to sell for 10 or 15 or 20%. So if you can stay between that 10 to 30%, that's really kind of that sweet spot because you're going to have a lot of room to turn around and make profit. On nicer properties, you can go up a little bit higher than that, go up into the 40-50% range, because there's usually those are going to be more expensive properties, which is going to give you extra room for profit, if that makes sense. Let's see. Okay, there's a couple other questions that I think we're going to answer as we go through. So we can see the different tax sale list here, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on some of these properties. Yeah, this list is actually missing a lot of information. It's probably because we're looking at the list. They didn't have this list out even as of yesterday, and so they don't have the assessed values. They don't have a lot of information that they normally would. So I would imagine that this information will be included as the auction gets closer. But if it's not, that means that there may be less people researching the property, which gives us a better chance of having less competition at the auction. So we can see this property here. Let's look at some of these ones with addresses. We can see, it's a $27,000 minimum bid. This may be the property we looked at. Let me see. Already. Yep. So we've looked at this property. It's has a value of $1.2 million with a $27,000 opening bid. Here's another property with a $34,000 opening bid. Let's go ahead and click on that. Okay, so we can see, it looks like a pretty nice single-family home here. Opening bid amount, $34,000. We have the address of the property down here. We can go ahead and click on that parcel image to get a better look of the property. And let's see what this property is worth. Obviously, it's not going to be worth what this first property we looked at was because it's not a custom single-family home up on the hillside. But within San Mateo, and it's not surprising because the real estate there is so crazy as far as property values. We're looking at a $750,000 estimated value. It's just over 1,000 square feet, 3-bedroom, 3-bath. And so overall, if we're looking at a $34,000 bid on a $700,000 property, that's a great bid to value ratio. Now, one thing I want to be clear about is these properties really have a pretty low minimum bid versus the assessed value. Part of that probably has to do with the real estate market within this area, and so I don't want you to think that all properties are going to be this high of a discrepancy between what the opening bid is versus what the assessed value is. And we'll look at some other in Florida, but these are great examples of tax deeds. Now, that may start at $34,000, and maybe it's going to bid up to $200,000. We're not quite sure, depending on the competition at the auction and which of these properties goes to sell. But as we go through and start looking at this list, we may see many properties on here that we want to take into consideration, and as the auction gets closer, do additional due diligence on. So let's go ahead and click on the property below that as well. So we can see this property is not a single-family home, but some type of commercial building. You can see that it's an auto body shop right here. Now, one thing I would probably do with this particular property, and we don't really have the time to go through it tonight, is I would go to the county website, and I would search this parcel number. I'd search to see what the assessed value is on this property, the size of the property, the size of the lot. I'd find all that information out, but there's probably a good chance that this property has a pretty high value. Based on the property that we just looked at, I would think that it's probably worth anywhere between $300,000 to $600,000, maybe even more. I'm not quite sure, but when you're looking at that opening bid amount, we're really looking at a pretty good value. Here's another property we can see with a $57,000 opening bid, and we can see that this looks like some type of custom home, single-family home right there. And so what we're going to do with this property is just kind of go through that same process that we went through, and we're going to see what this property is valued on Zillow. So we can see this property has a value of $581,000, and it's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, about 780 square feet. Now, one thing we can see is that this property, and we can see it down here, this property at one time was for sale. It may be currently for sale, and they may be trying to sell it to pay off this $57,000 in property taxes so they don't lose their property. But one of the things that they have done is they've given us additional pictures to look at. So that's going to give us a good indication of the condition of the property. We can go through, see pictures of the property. We can see it's a small 2-bedroom, 1-bath home, and that helps give us a better idea. And looking at the value based on the opening bid amount, we're looking at about a 10% bid to value ratio. So it has an estimated value about $581,000, has about a $57,000 opening bid. That's about 10%. Now, so this property, if it goes to auction, may sell at 10%. It may go up to 50%. It really just depends on the market. But the thing about tax deed investing is it's really the cheapest way I've ever seen to acquire real estate. I've never seen a better way to acquire real estate for a smaller percentage of its value. Some areas that may be 10% of its value. Some areas that may be 50% of its value. But either way, you're going to be able to acquire real estate for cheaper than any other method you could do or find purchasing real estate within that area. We see a property below that for another $32,000. Now this property here is some type of land, most likely. Let's go ahead and look at it quick, and so we can see that there's, in this particular picture, it looks like it just may be a hillside. So we're going to go ahead and use Google Earth and see if we can get a better idea of what it is. So we can see the property looks to be located right here in the backyards. I'm not quite sure what this is here. Let's go ahead and look at the street view. So I don't believe it's this home right here. It might be this large tract of land. Would probably do some more research, go to the county, and review that to find out. But we can see that there's, properties that start at $1,900 here and go up to value of, here's one at 1 point, 1 million, about 70,000. And so, here's a property that has an opening bid of over $1 million. It's 7.37 acres, and I would bet if we were to do some research on this property, we can check the parcel map quick. but it's probably a large, 8-acre piece within a valuable portion of real estate. So maybe it's this piece of real estate right here, and we can see this subdivision here. And so in looking at this, well, you might be able to subdivide this property and build 20 home lots in here valued at $400,000 a piece. And so this very well could be a valuable piece of real estate, which justifies its $1 million opening bid amount. So I want to go through and research some other auctions. You can see all of these great properties. I mean, this is probably a nice single-family home. Here's a property with only a $2,500 opening bid, but has an address. We can see, 37, 23, 24. There's all kinds of great properties, and I'm sure as the auction gets closer, we'll do some additional due diligence and some review some of the different properties that are coming up. But this is an example of a great California tax sale. LA is going to have similar type of properties coming up for auction, and so it doesn't matter where you're looking to invest. There's usually going to be some pretty great properties to get started with or to bid on at auction. Now, we're primarily going through tax deed and talking about how to research with tax deed, but tax lien is really just going to be the same process, but it's going to be a little bit easier. As you go through and figure out the value on the property, for example, if I was looking at this little 2-bedroom home, it has an estimated value of $58,000. I was purchasing a tax lien on the property that was guaranteeing me 18% interest rate, and I was purchasing it for $10,000. I would have no problem investing in this tax lien certificate. I wouldn't need to drive out and see the property. I wouldn't need to do anything like that because I'm just purchasing a tax lien on the property with the foreclosure right. And so chances are this person's going to pay off my tax lien before I acquire the property. But if I did acquire the property for $10,000, would it be a great investment? Sure. And so with tax lien investing, you're not going to need to do the same level of due diligence that you are with tax deed investing. With tax lien investing, you just need to make sure the property has value. If the property has value and your lien to value ratio is good as far as the lien cost that you're paying versus the cost of the property, it's going to be a great tax lien certificate. If you purchase a tax lien that's the property's worth $500 and it's a lot out in the middle of Arizona that has nothing but rattlesnakes and sagebrush, that's not be a good tax lien certificate. But if you purchase a tax lien in Mesa, Arizona on a building lot that has $50,000, that's going to be a good tax lien certificate because the property has some type of value, it has use, somebody could build on that property. And so that's really what we're looking for with both tax lien and tax deed investing. But with tax deed investing, you need to look at it from a real estate view. You're actually going to be acquiring the property. And so because you're acquiring the property, you're going to do more due diligence and make sure it's going to be a great investment because you're going to need an exit strategy right now. With a tax lien certificate, you're going to be waiting 6 months, a year, 2 years before you make back your money and your interest rate return. Otherwise, you can force the tax lien into a foreclosure and then acquire the property that way. So let's go ahead and let's look at a couple of other auctions that are coming up. Where is my webinar? Okay. Let's look at a couple of Florida auctions quickly. Okay, so here's Brevard County, Florida. We can see in July they have an auction on the 23rd. They're going to be auctioning 36 properties. They started with 48, and now they're down to 36. If we click on August, we can see that they don't have their August list up yet. So if we were to go ahead and click on this auction date, we're going to pull up the auction list. Now, as we look at this auction list, we're going to be looking for this information, and we're kind of going to be making a quick decision on each one of these tax liens. Some of these tax deeds we're not even going to look at. We're not even going to research, just based off the opening bid amount and that assessed value. Also, we're going to look for things like a property address. A property address means that you can drive by it. It means, it could be a building lot, it could be a structure, but you can at least go to the property. If there's no address, it could be some type of vacant land. Now, that doesn't mean that vacant land doesn't have value, but being a brand new investor, you want to stick to property that are easier to research. So this property here has an opening bid of $4,000, but only has assessed value of $21,000. Now that's kind of right there at that price point that I would look at it, because the property may be worth $40,000, and I'm going to see exactly what it is. And so if this was $10,000 and $20,000, I probably wouldn't look at it, but about 5,000 to 21, it's worth just taking a quick look at. So I'm just going to click on the county record, and that's going to tell me all the information I need if I want to do some additional due diligence. So I can see the site address right here, and I can see down here below that there's some type of building. It was built in 1963. I can see it's just about 1,000 square feet. So I can see that this building has some type of structure on it. I can also see that it sold back in 2006 for $82,000. It also looks like it sold a couple of times in 2012, and in 2010, 2009 for small amounts, which is probably some type of family sale where they sold it within the family. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and look at that site address quick, and let's pull it up and see what the property is. So you see this property looks to be it's probably this property right here. Let's see. Either way, it looks like it probably is going to need some type of cleanup and work. It may be structurally sound, looks like some type of mobile home unit. Let's go ahead and check out the value real quick and see what Zillow estimates the value at. Okay, so we can see a couple of different things here. First of all, we can see that the property is a 4-bedroom, 1.5 bath, 1,000 square feet. We can see that Zillow estimates it at $57,000. We can also see down here below that the owner is trying to sell the property. They're trying to sell this property before it goes to the deed sale. And so what they're doing is they're selling it for $29,900 cash. So if that $29,900 cash, would have to do some more research, but based on the estimated value, this is probably a pretty good deal. Also, the fact that he wants cash on, he's probably looking for some type of investor to sell it quickly. We can see some of the information. The owner's made some improvements, brand new carpet, new construction, 4-bedroom, 1.5 bath, partially fenced yard. So there's actually probably a good chance that the property is in better condition than we see it right now, just based on the fact that he's doing, they're doing work on it. Also, the fact that he's selling it for the bottom line. So this $29,000, that's probably the bottom line price, the properties that this property would sell for. And so at a $5,000 investment, could you make a profit on this property? Yeah. You're not going to become rich making a profit, but you could turn around and sell this property and make, 10, 20 grand on the property, probably pretty easy. And so even though this isn't a very high investment property, there is probably room to make a decent profit on it if you were able to get it at the right price. And that's really the key with tax deed investing, is don't get so emotionally involved that you're going to bid up the price of the property to where it's not going to be as profitable for you. It's hard sometimes. I'm telling you, as somebody who's done it and has worked with students, it's hard not to get emotionally attached or involved with a property. But as an investor, we can't be emotionally attached. We need to make sure the numbers work. So if I determine that this property would bottom line sell for $30,000, and I've set my limit at $8,000, I'm not going to go above $8,000 or whatever that number is, because there's always going to be another auction. And I'd rather have you lose a property than overpay for a property. So this next property we see that has an address, but it has a small assessed value, I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking at that. $3,700, 37. See, here's a property has an opening bid of $84,000, has an assessed value of $331. I actually looked at this property earlier today, and it's a mobile home park. It's not in the great condition of mobile home park, but it's some type of mobile home park. We can see this property here has an $80,000 opening bid and a $275,000 assessed value. Let's go ahead and click on that property quickly. We can see that there's a structure down here below. Oh, this one might be part of the mobile home park as well. Mobile homes, 26 units. So let's just quickly look at it. We won't spend a lot of time on it. So we can see this particular, I think that it almost looks like it's abandoned, but it may not be. But so we can see it's this mobile home park right here. Okay, so as we go through this list, we can see, a $2,300 opening bid worth $24,000. That's a pretty small tax deed amount. Let's go ahead and look and see what this is. This is a pretty low dollar deed. I mean, if you can acquire a tax deed for $2,000 to $3,000, it's usually going to be a. With this property, they're not giving us a street view, so we can't get a better look at it. Here's one with a $32,000 opening value with a $78,000. Now that one's got a pretty high opening bid amount versus the property value. So what we'll do with this property is we'd see what the market is. We'll see what that market value is. We see the property is located right here. It looks like it's pretty close to the beach. And it looks like it's going to be this property right here. If we're to click on the county records, we can see some additional information about it. We can take that address and see what Zillow estimates the value is. And so this is just really the process you're going to go through. And really, guys, this is something you can do just to get some practice. Go start to review an online auction and just start going through and looking at property. As you go through these properties, it's going to give you a better idea of the process and what property values are and how to read county records. And so, it's fun to go through and look at some upcoming auctions, even if you don't plan on investing there. You don't need to spend 10 hours doing it, but, if you've got an extra half an hour, go through and look at upcoming auctions. As you do this over and over, it's going to become easier to research property. So this property has an estimated value of about $100,000. So at $100,000, that $32,000, that puts it a little bit high at maybe 30% of the bid to value ratio, but that still has plenty of good room for profit if you were able to get it for that price. Here's a property with a lower opening bid, $7,000 opening bid, has an assessed value of $96,000. If we click on that, we can see that it looks like 2 stories, built in 2008, 1,600 square feet, and we can see that it's a condo. Tuscany Center condo. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just kind of go through that same process, click on the address, and we're going to search this property first on Google Earth. Because what I want to determine is this a condo, like a home condo, a condo that somebody's going to live in, or is this some type of commercial condo? And we can see down here below that it looks to be some type of commercial condo. Let's go ahead and click on the street view. And yeah, it's going to be one of these buildings within this strip mall. And so, that would look like overall a great investment. This strip mall seems to be in pretty good shape. We can see that it has some shops in there, a mattress barn, some type of computer shop, but there's also some missing or some shops that aren't open, and that may be one of them. And so in looking at a tax sale with a $7,000 opening bid on the assessed value of $100,000, I'll bet this property may be worth, 120 to 150. That's just a guess, but usually the assessed value is going to be lower. We can see that it's about 1,600 square feet. So would this be a safe investment? Well, it looks like it would be a pretty good investment. Even in bidding this up, it starts at $7,000, billing it for $20,000 or $30,000. You'd still have a pretty good room for profit on a real nice property. Here's another property with a $5,000 opening bid and a $71,000 assessed value. So we're just going to search that again, see what it pulls up, and it looks like it pulls up a little single-family home. We can see this family home is pretty close to the water, and really looks like a small, nice little clean home. Now down here below, I can see that this picture was taken in 2011. So this is a real old picture, and we'll want to take that into consideration if we're bidding on this property. I'd recommend having somebody go out and take a current picture of it so that you have a better idea. Sometimes you'll find these are 2015. Just really depends on when the photo was taken, when that Google car was driving around the street taking all the pictures. And after they've done an area, then they usually start to update it. And so maybe in 6 months, a year from now, this will be updated with a newer picture. But at this time, it looks not to be a bad little property. What we're also going to do is just see what the property is valued at. Okay, let me see if I can go through and answer a few more of these questions. For the person that screen is not moving, I apologize. It seems to be moving for everyone else. So I'm not quite sure what the situation is. We will have the replay line available. Okay, so here's another property. And as I talked about, this is part of the reason I like to use Zillow. A lot of investors kind of like to bag on it sometimes, but I can really find a lot of information by using it. I can see here that this property was at one time for sale and maybe currently for sale. Now, of course, why are they trying to sell it? They're trying to get their property. They're trying to pay their property taxes before they lose the property. So we can see that this property, as is, listed price for $41,000. They're really trying to move this property quickly. We can see it has an estimated value of $148,000. So the estimate is quite a bit higher, and they're probably trying to sell this as is at $41,000. Now we can go ahead and click on some of these pictures and get a better idea of the property itself. So that's at least this is going to tell us something. It says they're listing it at $41,000. Well, if they're selling it as is at $41,000, we probably want to use those values when we consider what we're going to pay for the property. So at $5,000, would it be a good investment? Well, at $40,000, there's still plenty of room to make profit. There's still room within there, and so at $5,000, you'd probably be a good investment. But if you're going up to $20,000, we can't count on that $71,000 assessed value, and usually the assessed value is low. So this kind of worries me why they're asking so little for the property. But we'll take that in consideration. Here's another one with a $5,000 opening bid, has a $90,000 assessed value. So we can see this bedroom. This property is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, valued about $116,000. We can also go ahead and do the Google view of it to get a better idea of what the property is. What we see is this property right here. Let's go ahead and got to erase these quickly. Let's go ahead and look and see when the property was built. So that's what I thought, 2007. So it's this newer property right here. This single-family home was built in 2007. Has an estimated value of at $116,000, and has an opening bid for $5,000. Now that would be a great property that you could look at. It's a newer property. It's only was built 7 years ago. Has a high value worth $100,000 and has a low opening bid. So you could start at $5,000, but you could bid that property all the way up to $20,000, $30,000, and still have a pretty good profit margin. Here's another property, $5,700, has a value of $70,000. Another property, $32,068, $4,083, $198,427, and $299,944. So let's go ahead and look at these last two more expensive properties just for fun. And we're only on page 2, so there's probably still a lot of great properties within this auction that are coming up for sale. So let's go ahead and look at this first property that has an opening bid amount of $198,000. So as we click on that, we can see that this property has an estimated value, assessed value of $427,000. We can see that it was built in 2002, and it was purchased in 2007, the year it was built, for $715,000. We can also see down here below the size of the property. We can see it's 4,431 square feet. See, it's got a fireplace, it's got a pool deck, it's got a spa, and so really we're looking at probably some pretty nice custom single-family home here. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's take that address and let's do a little research. Okay, so we can see that the property is located at 422 Waterside Drive. And it's this home right here. So really we're looking at a pretty high quality home here. It does have a high opening bid amount, but let's go ahead and check out what the market value is. So the market value on this property is about $773,000. I also want to show you another thing real quick. We can see how this property, this is a little bit older. When this property probably peaked at, or would have peaked in this area around 2005. We can see that this property went down in value through 2000. It went down in value through 2007, had a little bit of an up in 2009, and then went down until really about 2013. And now it's going back up in value. Over the last year, it's went up constantly in value and hasn't went down. So, in November of 2014, this property was worth $700,000, and by this time this year, it's worth $773,000. So this property has gone up in value almost $73,000 over the last year. And that's because the property values in many places in Florida are starting to go up. We can see that, there's the overshot view of the property. It looks to have some type of pool in it. And so overall, at $198,000, this is a good investment. Well, yes, sure, it's a $200,000 property, but you're getting a property, let's just say on the conservative side, that's worth $600,000. There's $400,000. There's almost $500,000 worth of profit that could be had on a property like this. Let's look at this last property as well, this last one on this particular page of the list as well. We can see this one has a $299,000 opening bid amount and has an assessed value of $648,000. And so here looks to be like another custom single-family home. Looks to be a pretty good property. We can see that it has a boat, and if we were to go ahead and go back up to that view, we can see the properties right here. What does it have? It has a boat dock. These are very nice properties right there on the waterway. has a boat dock. Now let's go ahead and see what this property is valued at on Zillow. Okay, so we're looking at a property that's valued at just over $1 million. It's 458, about 4,500 square feet, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, a nice custom single-family home. We can see the overhead view right up here. Has a pool. We can see that it has a boat dock out here as well. Overall, you're looking at a very nice piece of property, a very nice single-family home. And so at $300,000, if it's worth $1 million, that makes a little bit more sense. There's value to be had in this property. And so, we can go through and we could look at many tax lists like this and pick out these good properties. And this is just the same process you're going to go through. Now, once you've determined, okay, here are some properties that fit my estimated price range, fit what I'd like to spend, are in an area that I'm interested in, and as I'm getting closer to the sale, then you're going to go through and start doing some of the additional due diligence that we talked about in some of our other webinars that we talked about in the beginning of this training, about going through and getting current photos of the property, going through and doing additional due diligence, start researching the county records, doing a comparative market analysis on the property, start planning an exit strategy. Are you going to turn around and wholesale the property? Are you looking for rentals? What's your goal? And start narrowing down those decisions as you approach the sale. Then as you get to the sale, you're going to have an idea of exactly what you're willing to spend. You're going to do a comparative market analysis and determine what the value is. So if we were doing a comparative market analysis on this property, I would find which properties in this area, maybe some of these other properties, have sold recently. I'm going to find out what they sold for and compare those properties to the property I'm looking at. Maybe these properties, I'm just saying for numbers' sake, maybe they sold for $100 per square foot. Well, I'd figure out, okay, if the properties in this area are selling for $100 per square foot, my property is, 4,500 square feet, it's going to sell for $450,000. That's what the properties in the area are selling for. And once you know that, it's going to give you a good idea of what you're willing to spend. Because you're going to know, okay, here's what the true value is, here's what it's really worth, or what I could possibly sell the property for, and what am I willing to go up to? Are you willing to go up to 20%? Are you willing to go to 30%? What profit range is going to make this investment worth it to you? And depending on the auction, you may set an opening bid amount that's going to be lower, and maybe the property will sell for higher. You may be right on the mark. That's kind of this process is going through and investing in individual tax sales. The one thing about Florida is they have auctions every single month. Some states may just have auctions once a year. It really just depends on where you're investing. But the key is to go through and find some good properties that fit your investment objective, then do the additional due diligence and follow through the auction. So we can see that, there's quite a few properties here. We're not going to go through and look at some of the rest of them. We can see quite a few. Here's one for $52,000. It has an opening bid for over $2 million. Man, I'm done with this one, but I got to look at this one real quick. Okay, so we can see this property sold in 2006 for $5.9 million. I'm trying to see. Okay, now with this particular property, it looks to be land of some sort. We can see it's 217 acres. I wonder if this is the golf course that I talked about last week. I thought they sold that yesterday. Maybe it didn't go to auction after all. Maybe they had to postpone it until this week. Let me check real quick. With some of the students last week, we talked about, oh, nope. No, this was a different property. This is some type of teen mission. So it's this, it's going to be all of this land right here, and it looks like to be like some type of missionary for like a teen camp, essentially. We went through and looked at the street view last time, and this is a a very large property. all of these buildings, they're all going to be sold to the tax sale if the property owners don't come up with that $52,000. Now, just to get a different look, I know we're already running out of time. These webinars are supposed to be an hour long, and every time I end up going over. So I appreciate you guys staying with me and allowing me to go over every time. I just end up going through and start looking at these properties, and just want to give you a better idea and just end up talking longer than I'm supposed to. So let's go ahead and look at Lee County real quick, and then we'll call it an evening. Just want to give you some different views as far as property records. So let's go ahead and click on the first auction that's coming up, and we're going to see a lot of this exact same information. Now, in looking at this first property, opening bid amount of $18,000 and assessed value of $5,800, we're not going to spend any time looking at that property. You know, the opening bid amount doesn't justify even looking at it versus that assessed value. Now we can see a property number 2 here has a $4,000 opening bid with a $71,000 assessed value. Well, that piques my interest. I want to find out what that property is. So we're going to go ahead and click on the property, and we can see that this particular county record has photos of the property. So, you know, I'm a little bit worried when I see a tarp covering the property. So I'll definitely do some more research before I forked out the money for this property. But then again, you're only looking at a $5,000 opening bid. The land is worth more than that. But let's go ahead and look for some different properties. So here's a property with a $100,000 opening bid. That's pretty high opening bid for an assessed value of $181,000. Okay, so we can see this property here looks to be a newer single-family home. We can see it's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, about 1,600 square feet. Oh, it's actually older than I thought it was. It was built in 1973. Now let's go ahead and check out the value and see if the value is there on this property. We can see that it has a very, very high opening bid amount. So we see the estimated on this value is $388,000. So you know that makes a better value as far as what that opening bid amount is. I mean, let's say it's only worth even $200,000. At $100,000, there's still $100,000 worth of profit. If it's worth $300,000 versus $388,000, well, then there's $200,000 worth of profit there. We can also see that there's some pictures, and so we're of course going to go through and review those. Looks to be pretty clean. We can see that it's right there on the waterway. Inside looks incredibly clean. It's got a nice spa hot tub right there on the waterway. Actually, really a pretty nice little property, pretty good property right there. See another property with a $90,000 opening bid and $141,000 assessed value. Click on the photo of the property and see a better image of it. We see this property was built in 1991. It's 2,300 square feet, 3 bedroom, 3 bath. Now let's take a look and see what this property is valued at. Just reading some of the questions that are coming in real quick. Okay, I have some different questions, some personal questions I can email you guys back about. Okay, so this property here, $359,000. You would see it's located right here, 2,300 square feet. Even though this is a high opening bid amount, you know, there's still a lot of room of profit. So we continue to scroll down. We're going to look at that information, and we're going to see that, you know, $2,500 opening bid, assessed value $29,500. We're not going to spend any time looking at these type of properties. Now, the assessed value, you know, this property may be worth 10 grand, but you know, spending $3,000 to make a property worth $10,000. That's not what we're looking for as tax sale investors. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and click off, and we can see that this particular auction, this particular county, Lee auction, has 4 tax sales this month. So we can see that there's 11 properties, 54 properties the next week, 37 the properties, and 19 properties. So there's going to be tax sales taking place all the time. So depending on where you're investing, you can take that into account. If I'm purchasing a property in California, I might be willing to go up a little bit higher on the price because it's going to take a whole year before I have a chance to purchase property in there. So if I can make a good profit on a property, then it's going to be a good investment. I might be willing to spend a little bit more. If there's 4 auctions taking place that month and there's good property in each one of these auctions, then I'm going to be a little bit more selective, and I may take a little bit less because there's going to be more opportunity. And so these are just some of the different things you're going to think about as you decide where you'd like to invest and how much you're going to spend. So let's go ahead and click on the 21st. And we can see some of these properties that are coming up. Now, this would, one would have a very low opening bid and a pretty good assessed value. We're looking at an $8,000 opening bid, $100,000 assessed value. If we're to go ahead and click on the property, we can see a photo of the property here. We can see it was built in 1983, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet. And then we're going to go ahead and do a research on that property. Estimate and see what the property is estimated value. We can see it has an estimated value of $168,000. And also, do you see these red marks here? These little red or green information. This is going to be properties that are either currently for sale or have sold within this area. We can see another one right here. And so as I go down here at the bottom and click on comparable homes, these may be some of these properties that are included. And so if this property is very similar to this property, or this property similar to this property within the same area, then it'll help me determine what the value of my property is, or the property that I'm looking at. I can do a comparative market analysis. Maybe this property is only 2,000 square feet and this one here is 3,000 square feet. But if the properties besides this square footage are very, very similar, then I can still use this property as an example because it is recently sold, and then I would just take that in consideration when I'm doing the dollar per square foot on my property. And so let's just say that these 4 properties here I used as an example, and they sold anywhere between $100 to $120 per square foot. Where there's a good chance that the subject property, the property that we're researching, is going to sell within that $100 to $120 per square foot because that's what the other properties in the area have sold for over the last 6 months or year. So overall, a great looking investment with that $8,000 opening bid. Here's another property. Now this property here, we can see that the access is undetermined. We're not going to spend a lot of time looking at that because, unless you want to go out there and tromp through some of the swamps trying to find the property, this is not what we're interested in. We're interested in properties that are easy to flip, easy to sell, easy to rent, and that could be a building lot, or that could be a commercial condominium or commercial property. That could be a single-family home. It just the important thing is that the property has value and that you're getting it for a good price. See, there's not a ton on that first page. Let's go ahead and look at the second page. Okay, the second page, we start having quite a few different properties. And you can almost tell which properties are single-family homes just by looking at them. We see an address here. We see the assessed value at $46,000 at $2,900. Just based off this, I would imagine that this is probably some type of condominium. It could be a small single-family home or a nice mobile home in a structured mobile home park. See from the street view, from the Zillow view, it's going to be right here. So it's going to be one of these condominiums right here. But what we can do is we can go ahead and click on the property records, and then we can see. So we can see that it's the condominium located right here. 2-bedroom, 2-bath, built in 1981, 884 square feet. And so in looking at an opening bid amount of $3,000, would this be a good investment? Well, yeah, it would be, it would be a great investment. You're looking at a low opening bid amount. It may not have a high assessed value, but there's still room for profit. I mean, the tax deeds that I showed you earlier today that we're investing in, these aren't high dollar tax deeds. They're valued $50, $60, $70,000. But we're able to pick them up at a good price, so there's still plenty of room for profit on these properties. We see this property has an estimated value of about $73,000. So, as a $3,000 opening bid amount or a $3,000 opening, that opening bid price on a property that's worth anywhere between $50,000 to $70,000, that's going to be a good investment. We see a property down here below, $10,000 opening bid, has an assessed value of $191,000. Real nice single-family home. Looks to be like a custom single-family home. Let's go ahead and do a search real quick and see what the value of this property is. Okay, so we're looking at a property with a $270,000 value, and we can also, as you can see, these properties right here. These are properties that are for sale or currently sold. These are properties that we can use as comparables for this property if we were going to bid at the auction on this. So $270,000 with a $10,000 opening bid, you can't really see better examples as far as nice properties for sale than these. That doesn't mean that this property is going to sell for 10 grand. It may go bid up all the way to 60,000. It just depends on how many people are bidding at the auction. But you're going to have a chance of getting a very nice property at 20, 30, 40% of its value. And when you acquire real estate this way, there's just not any other avenue where you can acquire real estate. I mean, if you're talking about a mortgage foreclosure, many times the mortgage companies owe more than the property's worth. That's part of the reason it's going to the foreclosure sale, because the property owner owes more than the property's worth. So the banks, they don't want to lose any money on the property, or where they've already lost so much, they don't want to lose any more. So they're not going to start the auction out at a low opening bid like this. They're going to start it out for nearly what the property is. And so unless you find some type of very, very motivated seller who's willing to sell you a property for 50, 60% of its value, which is pretty tough to find, you're not going to find a way to be able to acquire real estate at such great prices as you can through tax deeds. And with tax lien investing, you're looking at earning great interest rate returns. If you have some type of IRA account or some old 401k account from an old job or anything like that, those type of funds are perfect for investing in tax lien certificates. I tell a story about one of my family members that invested in the most conservative stocks that you possibly can buy. They put a good portion of their retirement into these stocks, and between 1999 and 2009, kind of during 9/11 and all of that happened with them, they lost half of their money in the stock market, and they were invested in some of the most conservative stocks that are available. If they were invested in tax lien certificates, would they have taken a loss? No. They would have been earning 16 or 18% on their money during that time, guaranteed. And so, that's what makes tax lien investing so great, and tax deed investing as well, is when you're looking at tax lien certificates, you're earning an interest rate return, but that your collateral is against a property that's worth 90 times the amount that you paid. That's a safe investment. It's a great investment, and you know exactly what you're going to be earning. With tax deed investing, it's real estate investing, but you're starting out and you're purchasing properties at low opening bid amounts. You may bid up that property higher than the opening bid amount, but you're still looking at acquiring it for below 50% of its value. We've acquired property for 5, 10% of its value. I've helped students acquire 5, 10% of its value. Some nicer properties in nicer areas, investors may spend more than that. You may bid up to 30 or 40%, but as long as there's plenty of room for profit, then these are all going to be good investments. Here's a $14,000 opening bid, $239,000. Now this property looks to be like some type of large piece of land. We can see it is right here. Yeah, so this here is a large piece of land in a commercial. We can see that, next to it is commercial property. If we look at this address, we'd find that this is commercial property. It looks to have storage units right here next to the site. At least that's what it looks like to me. These are probably storage units. And so this is within a commercial area. For the right type of investor, this could be a very good investment as well. If you don't want to have to worry about trying to, deal with a home or with some type of structure, this would be a great piece of land that somebody could look at. And the good thing about land is it's easier to sell. As far as you're not going to have somebody try to show the property for you. You can put a sign on the property, and you could be across the country selling it, and not have to worry about showing people through the property. And also the people that are looking at the property are usually going to be investors. So they're going to be more invested minded. As they look at the property, they're going to look at the price, and if you're offering the property for a good price, they're going to go ahead and pick it up. Here's another property, $6,000 worth 113, $9,000 worth 105, $5,000 worth 56, $4,000 was worth 20. I'm not sure, that's not quite as great, but there's going to be lots of great properties. Let me go ahead and answer a couple more questions. We've gone almost an hour over, and we'll go ahead and call it a night. Okay. Another question about what to bid on properties, and as I mentioned before, that's really just going to depend on the auction. Sometimes you're going to have to pay more for in a particular market than you will in another. The key, though, is just to set that before you attend the auction, so you understand what you're willing to pay. So when you get at the auction and the bidding gets emotional, or as you're bidding online and the bidding gets emotional, and you might, as you start bidding at the property and somebody outbids you, you're not going to get emotionally involved. I have never had a student lose money in tax sale investing. And the only people that I've ever seen lose money in tax sale investing are for two reasons. The first reason is that they were completely uneducated. They don't have the education. You just being on the line tonight are 1,000 times more educated. I've attended auctions where I've seen people purchase on property and bid on property and just keep bidding on property. The only reason they were doing that is because somebody else was bidding on the property. So you had two people who knew nothing about the property that were getting emotionally involved and bidding against each other, bidding up the price of a piece of junk property. In fact, I told one of the, because it was a younger couple, I said, guys, this isn't a great property. Don't bid on it. Please. And I kind of begged them just not to bid on it because I'd been out and looked at the property. I knew what it was. I knew it was a drainage ditch. And, and he ended up losing the property, which was great. And he was so mad at me, he went back and the very next property, he got in the same bidding war with this same guy and bid it up and purchased a junk piece of land. That's a scenario where I've seen somebody lose money. And it wasn't because they were investing in tax sales. It was because they were purchasing property that had no value without doing any research, without doing any understanding of the tax sale process. They just heard about tax sale investing and how you can acquire properties for such a little price, and they just went there figuring that they could do anything. And the investor they were bidding with was known an investor who shows up to the auction every year and just bids on every property regardless of the price, just to kind of flex his muscles. And so, with those were two investors that were losing money on real estate, on tax sale investing, but that's just because they didn't do any research. They didn't go in there prepared. And then also they got emotionally involved. This young couple got emotionally involved that this older gentleman was outbidding them on their investments that they wanted, but they didn't even know what the investments was. So as long as you're going through and you're doing due diligence and you're setting parameters before the auction takes place, I'm willing to go down and bid down interest rates on these tax liens to 10%. or whatever that interest rate is. That's how far I'm willing to go. I'm not going to go any lower than that. On this property, the tax deed auction, I'm willing to bid it up to $20,000 or whatever that number is. It doesn't matter. It's just having that set amount. So when you start to feel yourself getting emotionally involved, and there's a good chance you will. You know, there's a few people that I've worked with that aren't emotionally involved or that can't get emotionally involved, but a lot of people will start to get emotionally involved. They see, you know, they want to acquire the property. It's just like bidding on eBay or any of the auction sites. People get emotionally attached to whatever they're bidding on. Ego gets involved, and they'll end up bidding up and paying more than they planned on paying. You know, that's human nature. And so realizing that beforehand, going in with a plan is going to save you every single time. You know, you're going to have a good idea of what you're willing to invest, how much you're willing to invest, what type of properties you're going to be going after, and then it's just a matter of going through, reviewing auctions, and finding an auction that you're interested in. Once you've determined an auction that you're interested in, then it's just a matter of going through, doing research on the property, figuring out which properties you're interested in, how much they're valued at, and how much are you willing to spend on them. That's the process. And so again, I want to thank you guys for coming out to the webinar. I'll go ahead and make this webinar replay available on the website. So if you go to the members section, click on the training center, and click on the videos, it will be the training video of the week. So this was last week's video. Each week I put up the new training video of the week right here, and then you can also click on the link down here to go to the YouTube. And so these webinar trainings are only going to be available to members of the website as far as these long training videos. Some of the short training videos will be available to the general public, but these long ones will be available to you, and you'll be able to go ahead and click on them and review them from here. So again, I want to thank you guys for attending the auction. Let me know if you have any questions. I can see we have quite a few other questions come in. I'll have to go through and review them after tonight because we've run out of time. But you know, there's a ton of opportunities out there. Go out there and start researching a couple of auctions, even if you don't plan on attending, just to start going through that process of reviewing property records, reviewing what the property's valued at, and we'll see you guys at the auction. So again, thank you for attending, and we'll talk to you again soon. And be sure next week we're going to have another webinar available, so go ahead and register. We're going to be going through a new topic. We're going to be going through new upcoming auctions that week as well. So again, thank you guys, and look forward to talking to you again soon.